Graham Linehan is a very big fan of mine. He follows every detail of my life very closely, and he's constantly sending me words of encouragement on Twitter, which is a pretty big deal coming from someone who's so famous within the comedy world, even if it is the lame normie part of the comedy world. But Graham, unfortunately, doesn't practice what he preaches, and it seems the poor boy's fell on his own sword. This has been a long time coming. Graham Linehan, or Glinner as he's known on Twitter, is an award-winning comedy writer who has worked on some of the biggest comedy shows in Britain. IT Crowd, Black Books, Brass Eye, Father Ted. Amazing shows. I'm not saying that ironically, I actually do genuinely love those shows, so the man knows a thing or two when it comes to comedy. However, when it comes down to politics and not having double standards, that's where you might find him quite lacking. When the Nazi pug stuff kicked off, and when I was found guilty, Glinner celebrated on Twitter what happened to me. He said that I deserved it because I am a Nazi, fascist, bigot, racist, buzzwords. Now, Glinner has celebrated many times on Twitter my conviction and me being arrested, and he's also said many times that I deserved what happened to me. I had absolutely no idea what brought this on at first. I was quite taken aback as to why such a major comedy writer, one that I respected and actually have enjoyed his works, would completely abandon his principles and suddenly attack me on Twitter and constantly try and interfere with my legal process. But then I found out from big name people in the comedy industry who actually have worked with him in the past that Glinner has apparently decided to spend his autumn years being the world's biggest virtue signaller. They got to him, boys. He even, for some reason, went after Jonathan Pie when someone said that comedians should take note of Jonathan Pie's video defending me. Except he's completely wrong. The cunt wasn't convicted for the pug, he was convicted for saying "gas the Jews" over and over. I wish people like Pie took the time to learn even the tiniest amount about how the alt-right works. Now, Glinner suffers from the exact same sickness that the majority of mainstream media suffer from, where they call every single person they don't like alt-right when they have no idea what alt-right even means. He feels he has proven that I am alt-right, but the issue is that Glinner does not know what the alt-right is. Glinner is working off his definition of the alt-right, the one that he's created in his own head, a definition that he seems to alter and change to suit his arguments. Some of the evidence that he provides for people being alt-right includes things such as retweeting Dave Rubin and liking Kanye West. Glinner is so deluded over what the alt-right actually is that he genuinely believes that having a fondness for a Jewish homosexual and a black man makes you alt-right. One of the best things that he does, which is a lot of fun, is he likes to create conspiracy theories about me. One of the ones is that I secretly am a Nazi and I'm secretly using my comedy and edgy bants to spread my Nazi views, and he can prove it with this article that he found on the Daily Stormer. Why are you browsing the Daily Stormer, Graham? I don't read the Daily Stormer, but you seem to spend an awful lot of time on there browsing their articles. The best one that he's came up with is accusing me of stealing the money that I raised through my legal fund, despite the fact that I posted evidence that the funds were transferred into my lawyer's escrow account, which means that even if I did want to take the money and flee to Argentina, I can't do that without the signatures of 4 different lawyers, all of whom would probably advise me that it's a bad idea, or just refuse on the basis that it's stealing. And despite everyone tweeting the evidence of this at Graham, Graham just did what he usually does whenever he gets information that refutes any of his arguments. He either ignores it completely, or tells them to fuck off. If Dankula had to make money from his comedy, he'd starve to death in a month. I've been doing that for over 2 years now, Graham, and I'm actually doing very well. Thank you for your concern. The problem with Graham, and the main one that I hear from people that actually know him personally, is that given his large achievements in the comedy world, it's all went to his head, and he has become insanely egotistical to the point where he is totally unable to recognise when he is wrong, and he considers himself to be the gatekeeper of the comedy world, real comedy as he calls it. He seems to consider himself the person that can make a comedian go big. He's the guy that has the power to turn a comedian into a star. He considers himself to be the Harvey Weinstein of the comedy world, minus the rape. Hopefully. These are the same motherfuckers who crow about free speech and donate money to unfunny racist dickbags like Count Dankula. Don't fall for these campaigns against actual comedians. Imagine being one of the most well-known comedy writers who's worked on some of the most well-known comedy shows in all of British history, while at the same time completely failing to understand some of the most basic concepts of comedy. You don't get to decide what is and isn't funny, Graham. The crowd decides that, not you. People get to decide for themselves what is and is not funny, and despite you being in comedy for so many years, I'm a bit bewildered that you don't understand that very basic concept. Also, the fact that you'll use the free speech argument to defend a comedian that you do agree with politically, but then abandon that same principle when it comes to a comedian that you don't agree with politically, kind of proves how much of a double standard you have. But believe it or not, guys, Graham's double standards go even deeper than this. Paul Chambers and the Twitter joke trial. For those of you that don't know, Paul Chambers was a man who, in his anger at Robin Hood Airport being closed, he made a tweet saying that he was going to blow the airport sky high, and as a result, he was arrested and charged. Paul did not give context to his tweet, and to the average person on the street, they probably could have perceived that as a legitimate threat. However, despite this, Graham Linehan was one of Paul's most fervent supporters, even going as far as to post the exact same tweet himself in an act of solidarity. Graham even helped host a fundraiser benefit for Paul Chambers to help him raise money to pay his legal fees. But when it came to me, Graham did nothing but attack me when I was trying to raise funds for my legal fees, and Graham even went the extra mile by complaining directly to GoFundMe to try and get my legal funds shut down and sabotage my appeal. During Glinner's speech at the benefit, when talking about the internet and freedom of speech, he is quoted as saying, "We've got this incredible tool and we should fight any attempt to take it out of our hands." While at the same time, Graham actually uses his platform to take that very tool out of people's hands. You are only allowed to have this tool if you agree with Graham. We are not finished though with Graham's double standards. Believe it or not, this rabbit hole goes even deeper. Graham has over and over again stated that my joke was not a joke, and he parroted the exact same bullshit as the prosecutor, saying that I am secretly trying to spread my Nazi views and you should not recognise what I did as a joke. You should see it as me spreading Nazi propaganda, which I find really, really interesting because do you remember saying this, Graham? The judge's appeal ruling is awaited with trepidation by Linehan. I don't want to insult the people deciding Paul's future, but I wish they would get a young relative to take them through Twitter and explain what it's about. Lots of people tweet things like, "I'll kill that woman" or "I'll bomb something." Most of the time, they're not to be taken seriously. Well, what about me, Graham? Why does that principle suddenly not apply to me? Oh, it's because I'm a good chance at a virtue signal, that's why. Something that you love doing. You see, you hold on to your principles right up until you get a chance to bash someone who meets your dreamed up definition of Nazi and alt-right, so you can score some internet good boy points.
Hey everyone, fuck Nazis, fascists and Trump. I'm a good person. Do you all know what a good person I am? Love and appreciate me. Women are powerful. Fuck Nazis, I'm a good person.
Glinner, you seem quite happy to sacrifice the principles of the very industry that you built your career on just so that you can score some internet good boy points. New comedians who come to the scene might want to be where you are one day, and they might have an even harder time of doing that, or they might not be able to do it at all because they'll have to self-censor and moderate their content and not tell certain types of jokes, just in case some prick like you uses them as a virtue signal and kicks them even further down the ladder. You're literally gatekeeping comedy and you're stifling certain types of comedy. I mean, you're one of the most well-known and well-respected comedy writers in Britain, and you're literally damaging your industry just so you can look like a good person. Your own ego and public image matter much more to you than another person's career, which is why you are quite happy to damage another person's career for your own gain. This is why people in the industry and the general public are starting to fucking hate you. Oh, but it's different when it's racist jokes or Nazi jokes. Really, Graham? Is it? Graham Linehan, writer of Father Ted. Do you remember this?
I am Chinese, if you please. Oh,
Come on now. It may have just been.
where are they going? I invite them round and they don't even let me tell them my side of the story. I can explain everything.
Actually, no, I can't.
I hear you're a hypocrite now, Father.
Now, Graham is well known for acting like a piece of shit, like doxing his critics on Twitter. But when it comes to trans people, Glinner is not the most accepting of gentlemen. Now that's a video I'm going to let someone else do. Seanhead or someone else can take care of that one, because that's a rabbit hole I'm going to let someone else go down. But long story short, Glinner is not popular in the LGBT community. Now, Glinner championed free speech during the Twitter joke trial, but then completely abandoned these principles when it came to comedy that he said was far right. Glinner has not stated his opinions on trans people for the purpose of comedy. He's stated them because these are things that he actually believes, and you could argue that being against the rights of trans people would be considered a far-right opinion. And Glinner has said in the past, even to me, that he supports people being arrested for expressing far-right opinions. Well, a trans activist, Stephanie Hayden, has actually reported Glinner to the police for transphobic harassment. And again, you could say that being against trans people could be considered a far-right opinion, so it means that if the police do come to Glinner's door, he's just going to outstretch his hands and let them slap on the cuffs and just accept his fate, because after all, this was the very thing he advocated for. He believed that people should be arrested for voicing certain opinions or even certain types of jokes if they were deemed far-right. I mean, he relished in it and celebrated in it when it happened to other people, like me. Hayden said that Norfolk police are actually opening a criminal investigation into Graham Linehan, and that she personally will also be taking up high court proceedings against him. And the best thing about it is, Glinner can't complain. This is the very thing he advocated for. You know how I'm always saying that these things that virtue signallers push for would one day be used on them? I'm getting proved right almost every week. Now, just for clarification, the Twitter joke trial was an absolute abomination. Paul Chambers should never have been arrested and charged over that tweet, and the laws that he was charged under absolutely need to be scrapped. But what is important right now is we give Graham Linehan a little lesson in principles. Graham, I think you're a piece of shit. You dox people, you smear people by falsely calling them Nazis and alt-right, and your virtue signalling is doing a lot of damage in the comedy world. You did, however, contribute some of the best comedies that Britain has ever seen, and you were at one point a staunch defender of freedom of speech, and even though you've fallen very far since then, I still respect you for that. And despite you lying about me, falsely branding me as alt-right and Nazi, and even going as far as trying to sabotage my appeal for freedom by trying to get my GoFundMe shut down, I support you. I feel that you should be able to say such things even if they are about me, and that you should still be able to say those opinions about trans people even though I don't agree with them. If you ultimately get arrested because of this, I will support you and I will be vocal about it. I don't like you. I really don't like you. But that's what supporting freedom of speech means. You support freedom of speech for everyone, even people you disagree with, and even people that you really don't like. That is called having principles. And you had principles at one point, Graham, and hopefully one day you will again. This might be a good thing. Most people don't realise how bad a problem is until it affects them directly. So maybe this will be a bit of a wake-up call for Graham and the other people that think like him. Maybe.
It's Count Dankula on YouTube. Everybody should subscribe.